A Persian messenger collapses at the gates of Susa. He has ridden 1,400 miles in 7 days. His hands bleed from the reins. 3 horses have died beneath him. But the message reaches the great king's palace before the rebellion can spread. Within hours, Persian cavalry rides west. The revolt dies before it begins. This is the power of the Royal Road, the greatest communication network the ancient world has ever seen, a system so advanced it will not be matched for 2,000 years. But here is what they do not tell you. The same roads that built the Persian Empire became the highways of its destruction. The same network that made Persia unstoppable made it impossible to defend. And when Alexander the Great studied those roads, he did not see infrastructure, he saw a weapon. This is the story of how Persia's greatest achievement became its fatal weakness, how the world's first information superhighway became an invasion route, and how the empire that connected 3 continents fell because it connected them too well. But before understanding how the roads destroyed Persia, we need to see how they built it, and that story begins with an empire in flames. The year is 522 BCE. Darius the Great stands amid the ruins of the Persian Empire. His predecessor Cambyses is dead. Rebellions explode across every province simultaneously. Babylon declares independence. Egypt crowns a new pharaoh. Media rises in revolt. Central Asian provinces form alliances against Persian rule. The empire that stretches from India to Greece is collapsing in real time. Darius faces an impossible problem. How do you control an empire when your armies cannot reach rebellions before they spread? How do you govern territories when messages take 3 months to arrive? The Persian Empire spans 2 million square miles. Communication moves at the speed of a walking man, 15 miles per day. By the time news of a revolt reaches the capital, the rebellion has already won. But Darius sees something no ruler before him has understood. The Persian Empire does not have a military problem, it has a logistics problem, and he is about to solve it with the most ambitious infrastructure project in human history. But the cost will be staggering, the engineering challenge is immense, and if it fails, Darius will have bankrupted the empire for nothing. So why does he believe this will work? Darius orders construction of the Royal Road. Not just one road, an entire network spanning the empire. The main artery runs 1,500 miles from Susa in Persia to Sardis on the Mediterranean coast. But this is not a simple dirt path. This is engineered infrastructure, military-grade logistics. Engineers carve roads through the Zagros Mountains. These are peaks reaching 14,000 feet. Roads must be cut into cliff faces, switchbacks calculated for grade and drainage, retaining walls built to prevent landslides. They bridge the Euphrates River, the Tigris, the Halys. Rivers that have been barriers to empires for millennia are now crossed by permanent stone structures, bridges that can handle military traffic, supply wagons, artillery, cavalry units moving at speed. They construct rest stations every 14 miles. This distance is not arbitrary. A horse ridden hard can maintain speed for 14 miles before needing rest. A messenger can change horses and continue within minutes. 111 stations across the empire. Each station is a fortress. Stone walls, garrison troops, armories, granaries capable of feeding an army, stables holding dozens of horses, wells providing fresh water. And here is the genius of the design. The Royal Road is not built for commerce. It is built for control, for rapid movement of information, for projection of imperial power at speeds the ancient world cannot comprehend. A message that once took 3 months to travel from Sardis to Susa now takes 7 days. Darius has just increased the speed of Persian communication by a factor of 12. He has compressed space. He has compressed time. And he is about to use this advantage to crush every rebellion in his empire. But what makes this system truly revolutionary is not just the speed. It is what that speed allows Darius to do, and no enemy has seen this coming. The rebellions fall like dominoes. But not because Persian armies are stronger. They fall because Darius moves so fast that provinces cannot coordinate their revolts. Before Babylon can form alliances, Persian armies arrive. Before Egypt can consolidate power, forces march south. Before media can rally support, cavalry surrounds their cities. The rebel leaders are fighting the old kind of war. They expect months of warning, they expect time to prepare. They expect the empire to move at the speed every empire before has moved. But Darius is not playing by the old rules. In Babylon, the rebel king expects a siege. His city has walls so thick no siege engine can breach them. His granaries hold food for 3 years. He has made Babylon impregnable. But Darius does not besiege Babylon, he marches past it. He cuts off its trade routes. He surrounds it with cavalry that arrived weeks before Babylon expected any response. Within 60 days, Babylon surrenders, not because its walls failed, because its economy collapsed. In Egypt, Pharaoh Petubastes controls the Nile Delta, the richest agricultural region in the ancient world. He can feed a rebellion indefinitely. But Darius sends armies south from Syria and north from Arabia simultaneously. Petubastes finds himself fighting a two-front war before he realizes the second front exists. The Royal Road allowed Darius to coordinate attacks across 1,500 miles. Egypt surrenders within 90 days. Within 18 months, every rebellion is crushed. Darius controls the largest empire in human history, and he controls it because information now moves faster than rebellion. But here is what makes this truly revolutionary. The Royal Road becomes the nervous system of the empire. Satraps in distant provinces send daily reports. Tax collectors transmit revenue data. Spies relay intelligence. Military commanders report troop movements. The great king knows what is happening in Egypt before the Egyptian governor knows what is happening in Memphis. This is unprecedented control, unprecedented visibility, unprecedented power. A satrap in Bactria used to operate independently. He collected taxes, kept most of the revenue, maintained a private army, and sent tribute when he felt like it. The great king could not monitor him, could not audit his accounts, could not verify his loyalty. But now the Royal Road allows Darius to send inspectors called the eyes and ears of the king. These inspectors arrive unannounced. They audit provincial accounts. They interview local officials. They investigate complaints. And they report directly to Susa via the road system. Within days, Darius knows if a satrap is embezzling. Within weeks, replacement officials arrive. The satrap is arrested before he realizes he is under investigation. Tax revenue triples within a generation, not because taxes increase, because collection becomes efficient. Satraps cannot skim 40% off the top anymore. Military coordination improves dramatically. When Scythians raid the northern border, Darius mobilizes armies from Babylon, Media, and Persia simultaneously. They arrive at the frontier within weeks. The raids decrease by 70%. This is not just better government, this is a fundamental shift in the nature of power. Empires before Persia ruled through force, Persia rules through information. But something else is happening on these roads, something Darius did not plan for, and it will change world history. Merchants begin using the Royal Road. Persian officials cannot stop them. The road is too long, the stations too numerous, and commerce is not illegal. But what seems like innocent trade is actually an economic revolution. Goods that once took 6 months to transport now move in 3 weeks. A merchant in Sardis can respond to price changes in Babylon before his competitors even hear the news. Capital flows across the empire at unprecedented speed. The Persian Empire becomes the first true global economy. Silver mined in Anatolia finances construction in Persepolis. Egyptian grain feeds armies in Bactria. Chinese silk reaches Mediterranean markets. Indian spices sell in Greece. And the wealth generation is staggering. New industries emerge: banking, credit, bills of exchange. A merchant in Sardis can now buy goods with a promise to pay in Babylon because the Royal Road guarantees the payment message will arrive before the goods do. This is the birth of commercial paper. Urban populations explode. Babylon reaches 200,000 inhabitants. Susa grows from a provincial capital to a cosmopolitan metropolis. People migrate to cities along the road because that is where opportunity exists. And Darius sees the opportunity. He introduces the daric, a standardized gold coin used throughout the empire, the same weight, the same purity, the same value from India to Greece. This is the world's first reserve currency, and it works because the Royal Road guarantees that coins can move as fast as information. The daric becomes the global standard. Greek cities use it. Egyptian temples hold reserves of it. This is monetary hegemony. Persia controls the medium of exchange. The economic integration is staggering. Persian GDP grows by 40% in 20 years, tax revenues triple, the empire becomes wealthy beyond imagination. But this wealth creates a new problem, a problem that will eventually destroy Persia. Because the roads that carry trade also carry something far more dangerous, and by the time Persian kings realize what is happening, it will be too late. Greek merchants travel the Royal Road. They map every station, they record distances, they note garrison locations, they study Persian logistics, they talk to station masters, they observe military movements. The Persians do not notice. Why would they? These are just traders, just merchants moving goods. But the information flows back to Greece, and Greek military planners are paying attention. They see something the Persians do not see. The Royal Road is not just Persian strength, it is Persian vulnerability, because the same roads that project power outward also create invasion routes inward. Every station is a supply depot for Persian armies, but it is also a supply depot for anyone who controls that section of road. Every bridge is infrastructure for Persian communication, but it is also infrastructure for enemy advance. Every garrison is positioned to guard the road, which means they are positioned exactly where an invader will pass. The Greeks are studying the blueprint of Persian power, and they are finding the weaknesses. The roads are too long to defend, the stations are predictable, every 14 miles exactly. The centralization is extreme, the empire depends on the Royal Road functioning. This is a single point of failure. But it takes one man to see how to exploit those weaknesses, one military genius who will use the Royal Road against the empire that built it. And his name is about to become synonymous with conquest. Alexander the Great crosses into Asia Minor in 334 BCE. He has 35,000 men. The Persian Empire has armies 10 times that size. By every conventional measure, Alexander should lose. But Alexander is not fighting a conventional war. He marches straight down the Royal Road. His army moves at forced march speed, 50 miles per day when normal armies move 15. He is using the Persian station system against Persia itself. Fresh horses at every post, supplies at every depot, maps showing every river crossing. The Royal Road that took Darius decades to build becomes Alexander's highway into the heart of the empire. Persian commanders cannot believe the speed. Alexander wins battles at Granicus before reinforcements arrive. He takes Sardis before Persian gold can be evacuated. He captures Issus before the great king can concentrate his forces. The Persians are experiencing what their enemies experienced 200 years earlier. They are fighting an enemy who moves faster than information. An enemy who arrives before warning reaches the capital. An enemy who uses their own infrastructure against them. But the speed is only part of Alexander's genius. What he does with the Royal Road after each victory reveals something even more devastating about Persian vulnerability. Alexander does not destroy the roads, he uses them. After every battle, he sends messengers racing ahead, not to Macedonia, to the next Persian province. The messages say the same thing: Alexander is coming. He moves faster than Persian armies. He controls the roads. Resistance is futile, but surrender now and keep your wealth, your position, your power. Province after province surrenders without fighting, not because they fear Alexander's army, because they fear being cut off from the road network, being isolated, being unable to trade, being economically destroyed. The Persians built an empire so interconnected that provinces cannot imagine functioning outside the system. And Alexander is offering them continued access to that system, just under new management. This is economic warfare at its most sophisticated. Alexander is not conquering Persia, he is acquiring it. Satraps switch sides, tax collectors keep collecting, merchants keep trading. The empire changes hands but continues functioning, because the infrastructure that made the empire work does not care who controls it. And this reveals the fatal flaw in Darius's design. He built a system so efficient, so centralized, so dependent on the roads that capturing the roads meant capturing the empire. He created a single point of failure, and Alexander has just exploited it. But the true cost of this vulnerability will not be clear until after Alexander dies. Because what happens next shows why empires built on infrastructure are so fragile. Alexander dies in Babylon in 323 BCE. His empire fragments immediately, his generals fight for control, but they are all fighting over the same prize, control of the Royal Road network. The successor wars rage for 40 years. The same roads that unified the Persian Empire now become battlegrounds, armies march back and forth across Asia, cities that prospered from trade are sacked repeatedly, stations are burned, bridges destroyed, the infrastructure crumbles. And the economic collapse is catastrophic. Trade routes that functioned for 2 centuries break down, the Silk Road closes, Mediterranean shipping decreases by 60%, the standardized currency system fails, local warlords issue their own coins, inflation explodes. Regional economies that depended on long-distance trade implode. Sardis loses half its population. Babylon declines from 200,000 inhabitants to 50,000. Persepolis is burned and never rebuilt. The GDP of the former Persian Empire falls by 60% in 1 generation. This is not recession. This is economic apocalypse. The wealth of 2 centuries evaporates. Banking collapses, credit disappears, merchants hoard wealth instead of investing it, capital stops flowing, innovation ceases. This is the dark side of infrastructure-dependent empires. They rise fast, they fall faster, because once the roads stop working, everything stops working. The Persian Empire never recovers. The Seleucids control the eastern portions, the Ptolemies take Egypt, Anatolia fragments into kingdoms, the unity is gone forever. And here is the parallel that should concern every modern power. The Persian Royal Road was the internet of its time. It connected economies, it moved information at revolutionary speed, it created unprecedented wealth, and it made the empire that controlled it appear unstoppable. But that same connectivity became a vulnerability. The same efficiency that projected power also provided invasion routes. The same centralization that enabled control also created single points of failure. The modern world is built on infrastructure far more complex than the Royal Road. Undersea fiber optic cables carry 99% of intercontinental data. GPS satellites enable global logistics. Container shipping routes move $60 trillion in goods annually. Digital payment networks process transactions measured in quadrillions. These systems connect the global economy just as the Royal Road connected Persia, and they create the same vulnerabilities. China's Belt and Road Initiative is building infrastructure across 3 continents. Roads, ports, railways, digital networks. Just like Persia, countries that accept Belt and Road funding cannot maintain the infrastructure without Chinese support. They become integrated into a Chinese-controlled network. This is the Royal Road strategy. The United States controls the global financial system through SWIFT and the dollar. Every major transaction clears through American banks. This is the modern Derek, a reserve currency backed by infrastructure control, but reserve currencies are not permanent. The Derek lasted 2 centuries, the dollar has lasted 80 years. The European Union integrates economies through shared infrastructure, common currency, open borders, unified regulations. This is economic integration at a scale even Persia never achieved, but Brexit showed the cost. Britain spent 6 years negotiating how to extract itself from dependencies. And the system is failing. Undersea cables are cut by sabotage, GPS signals are jammed in conflict zones, shipping routes are blockaded, payment networks are weaponized. But history teaches a harsh lesson. The more connected a system becomes, the more fragile it grows. The faster information moves, the faster collapse spreads. The more efficient an empire becomes, the more catastrophic its failure. Persia built roads that conquered the world, then watched those roads carry the armies that destroyed it. The question facing modern powers is simple. Are we building infrastructure, or are we building the highways of our own invasion? The Persian Empire found out the answer too late. History suggests we might too.